So seemingly garbage day has arrived in the world of Classroom of the Elite, because what they introduced with this special exam, there's some BS going on behind the scenes. You're doing too well, kids, so we're gonna force something that makes sure at least one person gets expelled unless you cough up 20 million points. And if you watched a couple videos back, you know, me and Yamauchi, we don't get along. I find him insufferable. Apparently he has a fandom. To my surprise, the comment sections were raving about him, and I'm just like, nah, expel this kid. And honestly, my prayers might be getting answered. Now there's a big class here. It's entirely possible that our boy's gonna manipulate some pieces and target someone. And the only character who's currently been causing a ruckus outside of Ryun is Yamauchi. He was gun-ho about exposing drama and just being an absolute scumbag. If he becomes the fall guy, garbage day's gonna arrive and this show's gonna be smelling so much sweeter when the trash is taken out. If you're a Yamauchi enthusiast, my apologies, but me and him don't get along, and this very well could be the happiest day of my life watching this show, if they go where I hope they're going. I have a full live reaction to today's wonderful episode of the Classroom of the Elite over on my Patreon if you want to see my full and good thoughts. They're over there if you're interested. Now this was a very interesting episode. I don't know, like, if you were to ask me between seasons 2 and 3, what is the better season? I mean, it's hard to say because we're only halfway through this one. And while I think the first couple of episodes of season 3 are weaker than pretty much anything in season 2, 3 through 6 to me is more enjoyable than anything in season 2. I just really like the vibe of where they're going personally. And honestly, the idea that there's a lot of things happening and we're not exactly sure for what reason. There's a lot of setup, a lot of sabotage, but most importantly, a lot of cruelty right now. This is the first time, it's a school record. Everyone passes. No one's getting expelled. It's hip hip hooray, class unity. And then it's like, yeah, listen, because you're doing so well, someone's going home. Someone's getting voted off this island. Yeah, you're gonna have to do a class vote. The simplest test, but honestly, the most interesting because this really pushes characters against the other. Class unity is no longer class unity, it's different groups voting for each other to save each other's skin. And clearly the people who are most hated or most pushed back against are going away. It would be clear who would be expelled if it wasn't for Aino Koji. And the idea that there's going to be a top 3 for both, like, the popular people and the people who are tiptoeing on borrowed time. If you're the #1 most voted in a positive way, you get a get out of jail free card, which is expulsion. Now, I originally thought, oh, this isn't going to be that bad because you could easily keep the whole class together. Because, I mean, similar to the end of the little field trip they did at the start of the season, we saw how someone saved the other with points. So I was like, oh, if you can transfer that expulsion-free card to someone else, then whoever gets top score or top votes in this class can then save the person being expelled. Nope, it's for you and you alone. Which actually has my mind racing because whoever ends up getting that could then be targeted in the future, but not in a negative way, right? Like, if we have more votes like this in the future, then you could very well say, well, so-and-so has the get out of jail free card, rather than one of us having to go home, let's purposely target them because they will be saved. You can see something like that happening, and I'd be interested if that could potentially cause drama, because you're like, no, I want to keep that for an actual rainy day, and, you know, just different things. This is kind of the fun of Classroom of the Elite. They always get you thinking about the future, even when the present's so interesting. The unfortunate thing is the bottom 3, the people who are most likely to get voted off, the one who does score the worst gets removed. And unless you can cough up 20 million points, which I don't think anyone can, well, outside our girl at the end of the episode, because she's taking one for the team. She's dating class president Nagamo, and who knows what else ungodly things he'll have her do, most likely for points. I mean, that's, you know, props to her and what she's doing for her class, but I feel like Aino Koji's gonna have to come clean up some messes in the future, but that's a janitorial duty for another day. The thing about this is, you know, like I mentioned last episode, I think it was, you know, we haven't seen a lot of Horikita, and while we didn't see a lot of her this episode, it was kind of nice to have her a little more on screen, because she's pretty much of the mindset that Ryun's gone. Like, he's out. He's getting voted off the island. Sayonara, see you later. And unfortunately, some of my audio got corrupted, so I'm just going to re-record from mindset of what I said during this moment. Basically, I was just talking about how, like, Ryun's pretty screwed right now, but obviously with the whole point system being built up, potentially that could be how he could get saved, or I don't know, maybe there's going to be something else. But when you think about On COTE's class, Yamauchi really does feel like the only one that could logically be targeted, especially given his recent outbursts. And that's why I think, outside of my own personal hatred for this character, he's the only one recently who has rubbed people the wrong way, right? Because he was like very gung-ho about the, hey, oh, I heard this rumor. This is great, smiling, poking the bear. Like, no one liked him in that moment, and everyone thought he was a douchebag. So I could see how you could whisper in one character's ear to then whisper in another and have this telephone game happen about why Yamauchi deserves to go home. If someone has to fall on the face, Yamauchi's just a loudmouth idiot. Like, you can see the train of thought. The quote at the beginning of this episode, I always love the Classroom of the Elite quotes. It's something about how, like, it's better to be stabbed than to stab someone, or, you know, it's better to be hurt than hurt someone yourself. And it's like, well, usually, yeah. I mean, if you were to ask me, would I rather be hurt than have a random person on the street be hurt? Sure. But there's definitely some people I've met and know that I'm like, fuck that, they deserve to be hurt more than me. And honestly, I feel like that quote's really gonna come back full swing when our boy purposely targets. Now, there are these little groups, these little cliques that are gonna be, you know, voting for each other, because here's the thing, right? Even if like 90% of the class makes a group of 3 or 4 and votes for each other so that they're safe, the person who's not a part of that group, and one of those people is going to be Ryun, is, you know, you can see how it's not going to save your ass completely, but it gets you out of the quicksand at the very least. And I don't know what it was exactly about this episode. In a lot of ways, it was one of the more basic episodes of the season, but I think it was the most interesting out of the 6 by far for Season 3. I like the idea of how, you know, even though the way the teacher's explaining this, you can tell she's not for this. She doesn't like this. Like, this is not for her. And as we see with different conversations throughout the episode, there's a lot of shit going on behind the scenes saying, oh, do you think it was him and everything like that. There's a lot happening. And that's why I think whenever you rewatch an episode of Classroom of the Elite, it's always a fun experience picking up on a couple of little extra breadcrumbs maybe you didn't initially because you're just kind of shooketh from whatever big reveal just happened. It's such a good show. It really is. I find myself loving it more and more. I know Koji just kind of sitting there scheming, smirking. Actually, he's not smirking. He never shows a sign of smile whatsoever. In his mind, I bet he's smirking, just doing his thing, but you know, he could easily sit back, let things fall into place as they will, but we know our boy, he definitely has some plan up his sleeve, and I'm interested to see if he can actually save Ryun, and if my prayers will be answered and Yamauchi will get voted off that island. Let me know what you thought of this episode down below. Who do you think's getting voted off the island? Let me know. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, we have that full live reaction over on my Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we have Golden Dragon, Samokrum, Jermaine Pahulu, Joe Gaming Axe, Troy, and Kiwi. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care. Have a good one.